Pedagogy of Resistance presents Who Were the Black Panthers? The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense began in Oakland, California in October of 1966. It was founded by Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, two young men that were unhappy with the ways Black people were being treated. They wanted to start a group that would help Black people to realize their power and use it to demand fairness and justice. Dr. Huey Newton believed that Black power is giving power to people who have not had the power to determine their own destiny. And so, Newton and Seale formed the organization that we know today as the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was a Black power group created to defend Black communities and to end the unfair treatment of Black people in the United States. First things first, how were Black people being treated unfairly? The United States of America is known as the land of the free and the home of the brave. It prides itself on being founded upon the ideals of freedom, justice, and equality. And it certainly did deliver on this promise, for some. Unfortunately, for Black people, Indigenous people, and other non-white groups in America, equality was and still is largely denied. In fact, you can look at each of the most important structures of our society, such as housing, education, jobs, healthcare, and the basic human rights that all people deserve, to see examples of unfairness and discrimination against Black people, from refusing to hire them to not providing their schools with the money and resources they need to teach their students. When a community is denied these things, it can never thrive. So why did Black people need to defend themselves? Who were they defending themselves from, and why? For more than 100 years, during and long after slavery, the police have been one of the most dangerous threats to Black people. This is because racist ideas created by some white people about Black people cause the police to assume that Black people, especially Black men, are criminals and are dangerous simply because of the way they look. This is called racial profiling. Though they are supposed to protect and serve, far too many police have used their power to instead target Black people, pulling them over and arresting them even when they have done nothing wrong. This is called harassment. Because of these unfair practices that continue on until this day, prisons across the United States are filled with a startling number of Black people, many of whom may not have committed a crime, or may have received a much harsher punishment as a result of their race. Unfortunately, and far too often, when police harass Black people, they use violence against them. This is called police brutality. The result is devastating and has caused serious injuries to people and in so many cases, death. And so these are the reasons why it was so important for a group like the Black Panther Party to be formed. They started by listing out all of the goals they hoped their group would accomplish. This was called the 10-point platform, and it was written in two main parts: what we want and what we believe. And this is what they said. Number 1, we want freedom. We want the power to determine the destiny of our Black and oppressed communities. This means that Black people should have a say over what their own communities look like, instead of having to rely on someone else. They should have control over creating their own healthy, safe, and thriving communities. Number 2, we want full employment for our people. Many businesses refused to hire Black people, except in low-paying jobs and jobs that treated workers poorly. Ensuring jobs in Black communities is a key step in making sure that Black people are able to provide themselves and their families with everything they need to survive. Number 3. We want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our Black and oppressed communities. Much of the money and wealth in the United States was built up through slavery. During this time, Africans were kidnapped from their countries and brought to the United States. They were forced to work planting and picking crops that could be sold for lots of money, such as cotton and tobacco. They received no pay at all for a lifetime of work, and they had no freedom and were treated as less than human beings. Because they could sell goods without ever having to pay the workers, white slave traders and their families were able to get very, very rich. This is why Black people for decades have been demanding something called reparations, which is repayment for all the work of their ancestors that made the United States one of the richest countries in the world. Number 4. We want decent housing, fit for the shelter of human beings. Having a safe place to live is a basic human need. However, many Black people were forced to live in buildings that were falling apart, overcrowded with too many people, or that charged way more than people could afford to pay. The Black Panthers wanted an end to this. Number 5. We want education for our people that exposes the true, decadent nature of this American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present-day society. First, there are many parts of America's history that get left out of what is taught in schools. This point calls for schools to include the truth about this nation's founders, who were far from heroes, as they used violence and weapons in order to steal land from and kill Native peoples, and to kidnap and enslave Africans, to name one example. Second, Black children were not being taught about their culture and the great contributions that their ancestors have made to society. The Black Panther Party believed that Black children should be able to learn about African and African American history, inventions, medicine, art, and more. Number 6. We want completely free healthcare for all Black and oppressed people. Unfortunately, we live in a country where many people die early if they do not have money to pay for medicine or doctors. The Black Panthers believe that all people deserve to get medical attention when they are ill, and also that Black people could educate themselves in order to provide this to their communities on their own. This would create healthy communities for generations to come. Number 7. We want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of Black people, other people of color, and all oppressed people inside the United States. This point demands that the police force stop abusing their power in order to harass and harm Black people and other oppressed groups. The Black Panthers believe that if the government would not make sure that Black communities could stay safe from attacks by police, then people have the right to defend themselves by whatever means necessary. Number 8. We want an immediate end to all wars of aggression. The Black Panther Party was not only concerned with the safety and rights of Black people in the United States, but also for that of people of color around the world. They wanted the United States to end any wars that served to bring violence or take away the rights of people in other countries as well. Number 9. We want freedom for all Black and poor oppressed people now held in U.S. prisons and jails. We want trials by a jury of peers for all persons charged with so-called crimes under the laws of this country. The Black Panther Party wanted to see a change in the justice system that would hold all people to the same rules and consequences. Because Black people had been unfairly targeted and arrested for so long, and because so many had turned to crime because they were poor, they believed that those in prison deserved freedom. This would reunite Black families and provide so many more Black people with the chance to be successful in life. Number 10. We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, peace, and people's community control of modern technology. Essentially, they wanted all of the basic needs that would allow Black people to use their power in order to create communities that were healthy, safe, fair, and joyful. This was ultimately the goal of the Black Panther Party. Though many of the 10 points were demands of the U.S. government to provide Black people with the things that all people deserve, the Black Panther Party is also known for taking matters into their own hands. How did the Black Panthers use their power to bring about change? There are 3 main ways they did this. First, they developed something called survival programs, which are exactly how they sound. Programs that provide Black people with the things they need in order to survive. Perhaps the most famous example is the Free Breakfast Program, in which the Black Panther Party provided every child with a free hot meal every morning. With so many families struggling to afford food, this was a huge help in Black communities, and it laid the foundation for the free breakfast and lunch programs that exist in schools across the nation today. Additionally, they started their own ambulance service, since it would take so long for paramedics to arrive in Black communities when there was a medical emergency. Last, they provided testing for sickle cell anemia, a blood disorder that African Americans are most likely to suffer from. These are just a few of the many programs that the Black Panther Party put in place in order to help their communities survive. The second way they used their power to bring about change was through direct action, which means that instead of just being upset about the unfair things that were happening to Black people, they got out there and did something about it. The Black Panther Party was very well known for its police patrol shifts, in which party members would take turns watching when police were pulling over or arresting Black people. Armed and watching, they were prepared to defend their fellow community members if the police officers chose to use violence. They also organized rallies and protests, using their voices to let the world know and let the people in power know that they were demanding changes in their communities. And in order to make sure that these changes actually got made, they also helped sign up lots of Black people to vote so that they could have a say in the laws that were passed and the people who got elected. Finally, the Black Panther Party used its power to bring about change through political education. They knew that the first step toward freedom would be for people to understand what they were up against, and so they offered adult classes where people would learn about the 10-point platform and how to fight for freedom. They opened their own schools for Black children, called liberation schools. And they published pamphlets and newspapers to get their message out to as many Black people as possible. It was through these 3 main tactics, direct action, survival programs, and political education, that the Black Panther Party was able to become one of the most powerful Black revolutionary groups in history. Here are a few additional facts about the Black Panther Party. It had thousands of enrolled members at its peak in 1970. There were chapters in 68 cities, including Oakland, Los Angeles, Seattle, New York, and Chicago. It formed international alliances with oppressed people, including Algerians and Palestinians. The FBI called it the greatest threat to the internal security of the country, and created COINTELPRO in order to destroy the party. The Black Panther Party paved the way for present-day activism. like to learn more about pedagogy of resistance, visit our website at pedagogyofresistance.org or follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To support through donations, please find us on Patreon or PayPal. Thanks for watching.